Hey everybody, welcome back. TheDungeonMattster here with another video. Today I'm gonna, it's still happening. Hey everybody, welcome back. TheDungeonMattster here, back with another video. Today I want to show you how I make my dungeon tiles. I just used some, come on. Hey everybody, welcome back. TheDungeonMattster here with another video. Today I want to show you how I make my dungeon tiles. Now, there's many videos out there on how to cast using Hirst molds, and videos that Hirst themselves produces on how to use their product. Casting is beyond the scope of this video. Today I just want to show you the assembly and how I put them together. I may or may not do a video on casting further in the future. So you may be asking yourself, do we really need another video on how to make dungeon tiles? And overall, plainly speaking, probably not. But the purpose of this video is to allow you guys into my process more. With that in mind, let's get around the table and see if we can assemble some dungeon tiles. So what I have here is a 3x3 tile. And I made all kinds of tiles back when I started, and I'm just expanding my set now, but I have 2x2s, 2x8s, 2x6s, 6x6s, 5x5, 4x4, 8x8. I only made one 8x8, but the set overall is pretty huge, but it fits in one container, which I like. Now these are Hirst molds. This is mold number 203. It's the I think it's the flagstone mold, and it's already got it's got 10 1-inch square pieces on it. And these little bits, I don't use these little bits for my dungeon tiles, but what I need to make is a whole bunch of these. What I need to make my tiles is a whole bunch of these. So rather than cast this a bunch of times, what I had done in the past is I bought some silicone and I made a much larger casting piece. Now these don't come out looking nearly as nice as the Hirst mold. There you can see this one is beat to hell. I probably didn't cast the silicone correctly, so I'll probably make a new one of these someday. I don't make enough of these dungeon tiles to justify using this all the time, but when I need to make large volume, this amount right here is one of these. So now what I can get out of this, I can get 5 completed 3x3 dungeon tiles out of it. I can get one 8x6 dungeon tile out of it, or I can get several 4x4s and 2x4s out of it, which is really nice for a single casting. It helps you produce a lot larger of a volume. This is just the stuff you get off of Amazon, and I had glued a bunch of tiles to a surface, built a wall up, basic mold making. Now, what I'm going to do today is make 3x3s, and this is a completed 3x3 tile. On the Hirst website, they recommend using cereal box cardboard on the bottom. Now, I didn't see that back in the day. For some reason, when I was making my original tiles, this is one of my original tiles cast in dental plaster, whereas this is regular plaster of Paris. The difference being that dental plaster is far stronger. I could drop this from a height and maybe only get a small chip, whereas the plaster of Paris is likely to just completely shatter. So these are delicate regardless, and you do have to protect them. That being said, I've cut several squares of foam board. This is dollar store foam board. It's super cheap, so I don't mind using it for this. This happens to be black. This is what I used back in the day. Back in the day, I mean like 4 years ago, when I first started doing this stuff. And you'll notice the bottom is beveled, so that you can butt the edges of the tiles right up against one another. And what I use for this, I just use regular old Eileen's tacky glue, and I smear a bunch of it all over one of these, and then I just pick out an assortment of tiles and I sit them on the glue such. If there's a little bit of flashing, I just snap it off. And I just try to work them onto the board and get a pattern that's pleasing to me. I don't mind if there's some overhang, or if there's a little bit of like an underbite from the foam core, because it's going to get trimmed afterwards. Now you notice I have the glue all in the middle here, but I have a small border, and that's for the same reason. And it's also so that when I put these on, a little bit of the glue squeezes up in between the tiles and keeps them all together so that the board doesn't flex. See how it's squeezing in like that? That's what I want. I want it to squeeze out just like that, coming out the top. No need to keep them square, no need to line them up with a jig or anything like that. I just eyeball it. And with the tacky glue, they're really positionable. You can move them around quite a bit until they're dry, which I like because it helps get everything nice and square, even though it doesn't have to be perfect. See, if I got one like this that's got a little bit of a ridge on the bottom from an imperfect casting, I can just take my hobby knife and come in and clean it up. You could use sandpaper with the plaster, but it gums up pretty quickly. There, and we have a completed dungeon tile just like that. And fairly simple process, it takes no time. And next I'll do is I'll come in and I'll either hit this with spray paint. In the case of the dental plaster, I would use spray paint, but this is porous and very, as you saw when I carved it up, it's very crumbly. So I'll probably hit this with the black paint and Mod Podge in order to keep it strong. And by the time it's all painted and everything, it'll be nice and solid and protected. So I'm gonna get these done, and I'll show you guys the process of painting them up. The other reason that I prefer the tacky glue to other glues like the Elmer's is because of the strength of the bond when it's actually cured is far stronger than the Elmer's glue. Now, like I said, as long as these 9 floor pieces are lined up with each other and straight, as long as they're not completely cockeyed on this piece of foam board, I don't care their position overall on the foam board, because a lot of the foam board is getting cut away at the end. Well, not a lot, but a lot of the border, a lot of the part of the foam board that would be straight is going to just be obscured by the tiles themselves anyway. So I'm not going to worry about how straight they are on the foam board. The longest part of this process is the casting, is making the bricks, making the pieces to put together. This is a nice activity to do. I mean, I wouldn't do the casting in your living room, but you could certainly set up like a TV tray or something in the living room and do this on a TV tray while you're watching football, or, you know, entertaining your kids or something like that. I mean, this is just a Saturday afternoon kind of thing, and I find doing this kind of thing very relaxing, and it's very calming for me. And there's very little that can go wrong doing this. Not a whole hell of a lot of margin for error here. It's just pretty basic. Just put some glue, line up the pieces, and the versatility of the Hirst arts too is it saves time when it comes to making the detail. So like the texturing and the cracks, I didn't have to do any of that stuff because it was already in the bricks, and the time it would have taken to carve all this stuff on dozens and dozens of dungeon tiles was completely minimized because I had these. And the best part is too, is if I break an essential piece, I could just cast a new one. And I don't have to remember how I made it. I don't have to get the design right. I don't have to do the stonework. There's definitely advantages to using these. If any one of these, like if I paint this up and one of these falls off, since I use a simple painting method, just a two-tone gray and a wash, and a coat of poly at the end, I mean, if for some reason the glue didn't take and one of these pops off, I'll just cast a new one and put it back on. I mean, it's that easy. XPS foam, I think, would definitely be tougher in the long run. Far less fragile, but for all the reasons I mentioned before, I'm not going to do that. I'll be honest with you, I tried to make a couple of dungeon tiles using the XPS foam, and I just didn't like how mine came out. It's not my preferred medium. Guess I got bored. I'm making a pattern. It's 5:40 in the morning right now. I woke up at 4. I have something to do that'll take me until about noon. By the time I get home, these will be dry and ready to paint. So what I'll do during that time, what I'll do is when I get back, we'll paint these up. You guys can see that process, which is also ridiculously simple. All right, so yeah, we'll let these dry and then we'll come back and paint them up later, probably about 5 or 6 hours from now. Stay tuned. I had to ditch my lav mic because my phone was dying, so these have cured up. I'm back from my errands. These have cured up. Definitely cured up enough for me to paint, that's for sure. There's a little bit of warpage, but some of these pieces were slightly curved before I put this together. The glue, putting the glue on so heavily will help ensure that doesn't become an issue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm going to bevel the underside. I'm just going to take my knife and tilt it at about a 45-degree angle and try to get a nice clean cut on the underside so that the edge of the tile sticks out further than the base. So I'm going to just trim these all up, going all around all 4 sides, and just bevel all these edges so we can have some nice clean tiles. And then you get a nice beveled effect on the bottom there, and it just makes them butt together better when you push them together. There's no gap that could be, crooked or anything like that. It's just tile against tile. So I'm gonna get these all beveled up, and we'll come back and get them painted. Okay, now I've gotten all these beveled, but I ran into an issue. A couple of them, I don't remember which ones honestly, because I was just plowing through these. A couple of them are not cured all the way, so I was gonna knock these out real quick with the Mod Podge, but I think I'm just gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna give it 24 hours and let these set up. They might even be set up by this evening. It's 1:02 in the afternoon now. They sat for roughly six and a half hours with the glue, and apparently they need more, so I'm gonna let them sit for another 5 or 6 hours. So I'll come down again into the shop at 6 or 7 and check them out, and if they're good enough, we'll finish them up tonight. Otherwise, I'll just wait until the morning. All right, we are back, and these are now dry enough to paint up with some black Mod Podge. So we're gonna do that and then commence to painting. Shouldn't take too long. Now you can see I've painted the bottom part of the bevel, and that's just because I don't want this white paper to contrast with my background that I have on my gaming table. Your situation might be different, so you paint your tile base whatever color you want to. I sound like the Bob Ross of miniature painting. Paint some happy little dungeon tiles. sitting for about 15 minutes, and they're, you can touch them now. None of the tackiness from the Mod Podge is gone. And what I've got here now, I've got my gray base coat, which is a apple barrel pewter gray, and I get this at Walmart. I don't know if you can get it anywhere else, any other hobby stores, but I know they don't have this color at Michael's. I didn't check the full cart or the other brand. Usually, I know they don't have it for Craft Smart. So use your own gray. If you're doing a two-tone gray like I do, just, you can get away with using a single gray and a white, and then you just mix them and go a shade lighter. I'm gonna hit these with a blow dryer real quick, speed up the drying process. So I use, for my stone textures, pretty much this color combination for everything. It's uniform. I like it. It's recreatable. I like to use the same colors for stone. I like that consistency, and it makes things easier on me. I tend to do more variation on the brickwork, and that's actually more of a recent thing. Just something that I was trying out that I liked. But for this, I'm using same Walmart apple barrel granite gray. You can use a light gray. You can use the same pewter gray mixed with white. You can use a dark gray mixed with a white. You can even use an off-white like a vanilla. This is gonna look really bright, but then when I come in with the wash, it ends up offsetting the brightness of it. You'll see what I mean. I took the paint, wiped it right off the brush on a paper towel, got off as much as I could, and now I'm just coming over the top of this lightly. And you could just start to see all those raised areas pop right out. And you know that now that these tiles are not flat, they're textured. So this is definitely just gonna bring out all that detail. And I don't even have to do a wash. I could stop with this step and they would look all right. I'm just trying to keep them consistent with my other tiles. But that's perfectly playable. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm gonna hit it with a wash because I like the way it looks. There's no real secret to the direction that I'm going. I'm just making sure I hit all the raised areas from every angle. I'm just trying to get it to look like the light is directly above. Here is just a Lester Bursley wash. Recipe for it's online, but it's basically 10 parts distilled water, 1 part Flow Aid. I do a 50-50 mix with the water and Flow Aid, and then I do 50-50 water, Flow Aid, and matte medium, and then I add black ink and brown ink to taste, and by damn, it works so much better than my original wash. And I know technically you're not supposed to shake this, but I get my sepia ink that I got from Vallejo just loves to settle in this mix, so I feel the need to shake it, and that's why I'm gonna squeeze it into a cup to use it. Now, for the purposes of these tiles, this wash pools really well because of the Flow Aid and the matte medium. It pools in these dark gray areas. I really don't want that so much, so what I do is I spread it out and I spread it into the cracks, and anything that's left over I go over after and I clean it up with a paper towel and I dab it off with the brush. You'll see it's really easy. So I just have my black wash here, and I'm just gonna start working it onto these tiles. Make sure I'm getting it into the cracks. So you can see how it's already starting to collect in those low spots, and I really don't want that on some of those. So I don't want it just in the cracks, and honestly, I don't have good enough tools or skill to get it just in the cracks and nowhere else. My painting foo isn't that strong. So what I'll do now is I'll go over it and I'll dab up those pools and then just touch my brush to the paper towel. And as I'm dabbing, I'm working the stuff towards the cracks. And this works really well. These I have to wait to dry. I'm not going to blow dry them. If I blow dry the wash, I'll end up with rings with this stuff. I don't know why. It's probably something to do with surface tension, stuff that I don't really fully understand. So I'm just going to trust the slow dry on these, and when they're done, I think depending on how they look, which I think they're going to look fine, because this is exactly how I painted my last set the other night when I repainted them, like I mentioned before. They're just going to need a coat of poly and they'll be done. So in an hour or two, I'll come back and check these, and I'll go watch a movie or a show on Netflix or clean up a little bit, and we'll come back and finish up these tiles. Thanks for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, I'd love to have you. Don't forget to hit that like button below and leave a comment if you have something to say. Also, I've recently started an Amazon affiliate store. You can do all your shopping as normal, and I'll get a small cut of the profit. It takes no effort on your part, and I get to make the channel a little bit of money. Also, I've made a merchandise store over on Teespring. If you'd like to get your hands on some logo stuff, we got coffee mugs, stickers, pillows, yoga pants. Again, I'm still wondering why the hell I made those, and t-shirts. So if you feel like you want to support the channel, there's another way to do it. And lastly, the best way that you can support the channel and what I'm doing here, if you really love what I'm doing, is to become a supporter on Patreon. Every little bit helps. I take every dollar, it'll go back into making the channel better than what it is, and hopefully one day I'll get to fulfill my dream making this full time. So that being said, I'm going to give a special shout out to my patrons for this month down below. And yeah, that's one of the first tier rewards, which I only have one tier right now. I'm working on a second, maybe, I'm not sure yet. So yeah, if you want to become a patron, head on over to Patreon/TheDungeonMattster. I post content there that you can only get there, and try to engage more with my community over there. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.